So that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt, a horrible stain, so embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're...
No way.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
You've probably heard before that play is an important part of life, but what does that really mean for you in your daily life? How do you even add more play into your life, and isn't it just a waste of time? It doesn't have anything to do with your health or the way you get older, does it? You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 167, How Play Helps You Age Well. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode. I hope you're having a great day so far. Thanks so much for being here today and listening in as you do whatever superhuman thing you're doing right now. How is your vaginal health? Did you think about proactively preventing and or delaying vaginal dryness and atrophy? I think it's so good to know that aging doesn't have to mean inevitable suffering if you know what's likely to happen and how to prevent or drastically delay it. Okay, here's your question of the day. What do you think is the most important factor in being a fulfilled human being? As we get older, we tend to become more keenly aware of making sure we're doing the things that will be fulfilling and making sure that our lives mattered. So keep your answer in mind. We're going to come back to what's the most important factor in being a fulfilled human being. Today, we're going to talk about learning to up-level the way we play. I think most of us have heard that play is important, but we still don't really take it seriously. That's kind of the point of play, right? A break from taking things seriously. But if you want to live a fulfilled life that matters, you need to take the silliness of play very seriously. Up-leveling the way you play will help you age better in so many different ways. So, what is play exactly? Dr. Stuart Brown wrote a book called Play, and he defines play as an absorbing, apparently purposeless activity that provides enjoyment and suspension of self-consciousness and sense of time. It's also self-motivating and makes you want to do it again. So how do you feel about that definition? How much time out of your typical day do you spend doing things that suspend your sense of self-consciousness and your sense of time? Do you get absorbed doing things that make you want to do them again? It's an interesting definition. It made me think about how I can get totally absorbed doing the dishes and lose my sense of time. Or yesterday, I lost 2 hours of my life because I was completely absorbed in sorting through and making bundles of blended types of gourmet hay. This is my life now, sourcing connoisseur-approved hay for my fuzzy Holland Lop house-trained free-range bunny. Anyway, the absorption was there, but not so much the wanting to do it again. So I think there can be a continuum. Stuart says, sometimes running is play and sometimes it's not. What is the difference between the two? It really depends on the emotions experienced by the runner. Play is a state of mind rather than an activity. End quote. I think there can be things that are pure 100% play and things that are 65% play and things that are 82% play. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but play is voluntary, absorbing, provides opportunities for improvisation, enjoyable, and suspends self-consciousness and your sense of time. I think things can be all or partially a play activity. But Stuart says that the easiest way to identify play is to connect with the emotion of play. Look at pictures or videos of toddlers or kittens playing. That is play. He also says that play is incredibly pervasive throughout nature, from leopards to hyenas to bison jumping on a frozen lake and sliding all around on all fours. So he knows that play has survival value. Play is essential for well-being. Should I say it again? Let it sink in. Play is essential for well-being. But living a life of play doesn't mean always choosing the most pleasurable or fun path. It doesn't mean foregoing anything unpleasurable or distasteful. It means fueling your spirit on the deepest level, and sometimes that's hard. Life is supposed to be challenging, and we will never be exonerated from hard work. But incorporating play into our life makes our life better. Not just because it's fun or an escape from reality. Stuart Brown says, remembering what play is all about and making it a part of our daily lives are probably the most important factors in being a fulfilled human being. End quote. So was that your answer when I asked you that earlier? In order to be a fulfilled human being, I need to make play a part of my daily life. That's a big statement. Do you agree with it? It's hard to believe that play is the most important part of being a fulfilled human being, but Dr. Brown makes the case that play is an inherent part of who we truly are, and using it helps us to find and express our personal core truths. Playing allows us to discover our most essential selves and enlarge our world. It's a path to fulfillment and creative growth. As we get older and look forward to our 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, who wouldn't want to express their personal core truths, discover their essential self, and enlarge their world? We're all taught to believe that getting older and eventually dying are negative things. I think there's value in considering the end of your life and the most commonly reported regrets of the dying. I wish I had lived the life I wanted to live instead of what others expected me to do. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had expressed my feelings and stayed in better contact with those I loved. So it seems to me that finding a way to express your core truths through the way you live your life and discovering your most essential self and using it to enlarge the world might be ways to get to the end of your mortal life with fewer regrets. To be a truly fulfilled human being. So let's do that. Why not, right? When you think of it that way, play does seem pretty gosh darn important. It's not a break from real life. It's how to create a life that's really worth living. There are plentiful examples throughout history of the greatest, most fascinating and effective people in the world who actually worked less than their colleagues and accomplished more because they played every day. Inventors, CEOs, Nobel Prize winners, all kinds of people. Play helps you recover more from the daily grind of work. That's not too surprising, but it also makes you more creative. People who stop and play solve problems better than those who just keep working. And we all know that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I'm listening to a book right now called Shorter that explains all the ways that working fewer hours per week leads to increased productivity and effectiveness for the organization. A lot of it has to do with having more playtime to make you a better human being. And a collection of better human beings makes for a better organization. Have I convinced you of the absolute necessity of play yet? You'll be more effective, more creative, less dull, and more likely to arrive at the end of your life as a fulfilled person who expressed her inner truth and made the world a better place. So, how exactly do we add more play into our lives? First off, remember that play is inherent. We're naturally inclined toward play, so maybe letting yourself do something you wouldn't normally do because it seems frivolous is a start. Second, remember that play isn't always fun. Sometimes it's challenging and uncomfortable, but activities that require struggle and hard work always feel way more rewarding than ones that don't. In his book, Hidden Potential, Adam Grant talks about the importance of implementing what he calls deliberate play. It's like the deliberate practice that has been proven to help you achieve mastery in a certain subject, but you turn your deliberate skill-building challenges into a source of daily joy. A bit of gamification in your skill-building pursuits, if you will. Trying to beat a high score or a fastest time or something. Is there a skill that you're working on where you might be able to add a little game? It's great if you can measure something and then compete against yourself and see your progress. Adam Grant also suggests switching up your routine in order to avoid bore out. I think that's a great term. bore out. If there's something that you're working toward, how can you add something new or different into your daily practice? Variety by itself can feel more playful. Maybe you change the tool you use or the order you do things in or something. Something else you can do is to add more breaks into your day. Proactively schedule 5 or 10 minutes of downtime into your day and then honor that. You're more able to stay all on, as in at the top of your game, when you purposefully go all off periodically. And remember, all off isn't scrolling social media or checking email. It's ideally being totally input free. Walking, doing push-ups, meditating, petting your cat, moisturizing your cuticles, whatever. Doing a yoga pose. But hopefully with no input from outside of yourself. That's deep recovery. I think I mentioned before that my husband got me this thing called a gib board for Mother's Day. It's like a portable slackline you can have inside your house. It's not as long as a regular slackline, obviously, but still super fun and kind of silly because you know for sure that you're going to fall off of it at some point. But it's the perfect all-off play break to go try to balance and see how long you can stay up, and it only takes a few seconds. It's easy and fun, and it gives me a sense that I'm improving as I repeatedly do it. Stephen Kotler is an author and researcher of the flow state. You've probably heard of flow before and know what it feels like. He has some interesting books that I'd recommend if you want to learn more about flow: The Art of Impossible, The Rise of Superman, and Nar Country. He talks about how when you love something and you create the right conditions for flow to happen, you can accomplish amazing things, and it feels amazing all along the way. It's not easy. By definition, in order to be in flow, you need to be operating at the edge of what you're capable of, which is uncomfortable. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi says that flow arrives when there is order in consciousness, when your attention is wholly focused on a realistic but challenging goal and your skills just barely match the opportunity for action. But now I can see the parallels and how Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi and Stephen Kotler's definition of flow meets Stephen Brown's definition of play. If you remember, that was an absorbing activity that provides enjoyment and suspension of self-consciousness and sense of time. It's also self-motivating and makes you want to do it again. They sound almost the same to me. I've never made that connection before, but we're innately driven to play, and we rise to our greatest potential by accessing flow states. Research shows that the more often you're in flow, the happier you are overall, and the more likely you are to soar past what you believed you were capable of. Csikszentmihalyi said that someone who regularly accesses flow, quote, becomes an increasingly extraordinary individual. Who wouldn't want that? According to Stephen Kotler, the challenge you're trying to conquer needs to be 4% harder than your abilities in order to trigger flow. That's the magic number at the end of the Yerkes-Dodson law. Increased stress leads to increased performance up to a certain intensity, beyond which performance levels off or declines. It's not comfortable to be stretched beyond your current abilities, but if it's 4% beyond, it's exhilarating, rewarding, and it makes you better. So if you're trying to improve a particular skill, turn your practice into play by making it into a fun game and or doing something new. During your regular work and daily routine, schedule and honor your commitment to little play breaks where you're all off and do something just for the joy of doing it. And also find ways to get into the flow channel as often as possible when working on things you care about, whether that's home projects, volunteer work, career work, or adventure sports, or whatever else you're into. Of course, when your most meaningful work feels like play, you've hit the jackpot and you just play all day and never work a day in your life. What happens to humans who don't play? I'm not sure, but maybe they become like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Excellent. But what happens to animals who don't play? Well, baby sea squirts spend their days exploring the ocean, discovering places with nutrients, and avoiding danger. Then, as adults, they stop exploring and they fix themselves permanently to a rock or a boat hull. They've finally made it. They're adult sea squirts. They don't have to struggle around anymore, and they retire into adulthood. They settle down and stay put. Then they start to digest their own brain. Though, without a need to explore, the cerebral ganglia isn't needed anymore, and it becomes just another form of calories. Excellent. Dr. Brown says that when we stop playing, we stop developing, and when that happens, the laws of entropy take over. Things fall apart. Ultimately, we share the fate of the sea squirt and become vegetative, staying in one spot, not fully interacting with the world, more plant than animal. When we stop playing, we start dying. End quote. Don't start dying now. The world needs you. Keep playing so you can keep living. Something fun in Stuart Brown's book is that he says when people know their core truths and live in accord with what I call their play personality, the result is always a life of incredible power and grace. As we grow older, we start to have strong preferences for certain types of play over others. Some things float your boat and others don't. Over the years, I've observed that people have a dominant mode of play that falls into one of 8 types. I call these play personalities. These categories are not scientifically based, but I've found them to be generally accurate. No one is a perfect example of a single play personality type. Most of us are a mix of these categories. At different times and in different situations, people might find themselves playing in a mode that is different than their dominant type. I have found that most people recognize themselves in these archetypes and find them useful for discovering their own play personality. End quote. Okay, are you ready to find out your play personality? This is kind of fun. So, play personality number 1 is called the Joker. This is the class clown or practical joker. The Joker loves nonsense. Is that you? The second type is the kinesthete. The kinesthete loves to move, whether it's football or yoga or dance. They do their best thinking and feel most alive when moving. The third is the explorer. Explorers love to discover new places, whether the terrain is physical, emotional, or mental. They love pushing their edges and finding new vistas. The fourth play type is the competitor. The competitor loves to play by creating games and playing to win. Whether it's solo or social, they love keeping score and coming out on top. The fifth is the director. The director loves to organize, the party givers and excursion leaders who take on adventures. The sixth type is the collector. The collector loves to have the most interesting collection of objects or experiences, whether that's coins, toy trains, antiques, shoes, cars, or whatever fascinates them. The seventh play personality is the artist or creator. Artist creators love making things, whether that's painting or sculpting or knitting or sewing or gardening. They're playing when they're creating something. Lastly, the eighth archetype is the storyteller. Play for storytellers focuses on imagination. Our novelists, cartoonists, and screenwriters, performers, and those whose greatest joy is engaging in those creations are storytellers. Okay, what do you think of this list? It's kind of fun, right? I wish you could tell me which one you are, because I'd love to know. I'm an explorer with the side of director and an appreciation for storytellers. This is so cool because the better you know yourself and your play personality, the easier it is to make play part of your regular life. It's easier to figure out what little things you can non-stressfully add into your week. There are lots of little ways I can find opportunities to explore more. That fills me up and makes me happy while giving me new ideas and inspiration for sure. I can also see some of the things I might be procrastinating learning how to do as an exploration possibility, which is pretty cool. How about you? Can you add a competitive edge to normal parts of your day? What can you get more serious about collecting? How might you offer yourself the opportunity to create or tell a story more often? It's important to honor your play personality and give yourself opportunities to enjoy things in that way, but I also think it's fun to explore some of the other archetypes now and then, just for the heck of it. This is play, after all. Pull a practical joke on someone, take a dance class, or organize an event. So many ways to play. If you remember just a few weeks ago in episode 163, we talked about intuition. And we talked about how when you're feeling stuck, like no insight is available to you, the quickest way to get unblocked is to start moving your body in some way. Stuart Brown says the same thing about play. If you're feeling like you can't get into play mode or you don't know how to start, Just move. Walk, do jumping jacks, dance, throw a ball to your dog. Whether you're a kinesthete or not, moving is the most basic form of play, and it always helps us to feel more alive and less like we're on the verge of digesting our own brain. I hope as you venture into your next 50 years of life, you'll remember that daily play is possibly the most effective way to become a fulfilled human being. You're more innovative, happier, and more connected to others when you play regularly. Honor your play personality and do what you love. Find ways to get into flow, doing hard things that you care about. Push yourself to perform 4% harder than you think you're capable. When you're doing your daily drudgery, ask yourself how you might make those tasks more enjoyable. Gamify the practice you do to improve your skills. Pay attention to what you do that makes you lose your sense of time and sense of self, and then do more of that. Make sure you do some things just because you enjoy them. This is how you master the art of living. Writer James Michner said, "The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both." End quote. That sounds pretty good, right? Mastery without the misery. Maybe a little bit of suffering and a lot of hard work, but all in all, an enjoyable pursuit that ends up with you being a fulfilled human being. Thank you so much for being here today and considering how adding more play to your life will help you age better. I'm going to end with 3 quotes from Dr. Stuart Brown. "When enough people raise play to the status it deserves in our lives, we will find the world a better place. A lack of play should be treated like malnutrition. It's a health risk to your body and mind." That's a good one. Make sure you're not malnourished. And lastly, play is how we are made and how we develop and adjust to change. It can foster innovation and lead to multi-billion-dollar fortunes. But in the end, the most significant aspect of play is that it allows us to express our joy and connect most deeply with the best in ourselves and others. If your life has become barren, play brings it to life again. Yes, as Freud said, life is about love and work. Yet play transcends these, infuses them with liveliness, and stills time's arrow. Play is the purest expression of love. End quote. Next week, we're going to talk about energy work and living with more delicious ease. Until then, harness your natural-born force to discover your true self, express your core truth, and enlarge your world. And don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.
So that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt, a horrible stain, so embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're...
No way.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.